What's up, guys? You might notice a little bit of guy liner going on here. I caught a nice little elbow the other day, and it's like spreading out throughout my eye. Anyway, got a question from Selena about self-confidence. Her question is about jiu-jitsu. She wants to start training jiu-jitsu, but she lacks the confidence to go into the gym. But as we talked, in Instagram, we were talking and exchanging messages. She says that she just lacks confidence in general, and so she's wondering if I can give her any tips on how to kind of overcome this so she can start training and obviously build up her confidence. So, Selena, thanks for the question, and I'm going to speak about your question as someone who, when I was younger, just like you, right, I lacked confidence. When I was in my teenage years, I talked to this before if you watched the videos, I was jumped when I was in 7th grade, I was overweight, I stuttered when I spoke to people, I couldn't speak in front of people, I couldn't talk to girls, I had all these things that were just sort of symptoms of being like completely just unconfident in myself. And so I'm gonna go from that perspective, and hopefully this is helpful to you. So the story that I wanna share with you, right, because again, we just talked about me being this fat, stuttery kid who, by the way, I couldn't even walk out in front of my house, like to go down the street because I was too scared to be by myself walking. Fast forward about 5 or 6 years, I'm fighting in mixed martial arts, right? And I'm using mixed martial arts as an example because it's one of those situations that is probably one of the most nerve-wracking situations. It's one of those situations that I put myself into where I was second-guessing myself the whole time, but I went through with it anyway. And I remember on one of my fights, I want to say it was my 6th fight, it was back in 2008, I was sitting in the back room, waiting to kind of get ready for it. Typically before my fights, I would sit there and just breathe and sort of relax, have some headphones in, try to keep myself down because it was very easy for me to get like really amped up and get too energetic, and I wanted to stay nice and calm until it was time to get warmed up for the fight. And one of my teammates was passing me by when I was sitting down, and he looked at me and he said something to the effect of, "Man, I can't imagine how, or I can't understand how you're so calm, how you're so confident. How do you do that?" Right? Just like saying, because I'm so relaxed. And for me, I looked at him and I kind of just grinned a little bit because maybe on the outside I looked confident, right? But on the inside I wasn't confident. In the inside I was going crazy. I was like just all the bubble guts, right? Had to go to the bathroom a million times before the match. I was nervous. I was in this constant battle in my head where I'm like trying to think of positive sort of outcomes to this fight happening instead of letting the negative ones take over. I got this sort of deep urge to just want to get the hell out of the building, right? That I have to fight off constantly. There's all these things going through me, but on the outside, I look confident, right? To him. Now, I went through with the fight, and I eventually won the fight. Everything went well. Now, I'm sharing that with you because here's what I thought about when you asked that question. When I was younger, I used to think that people just had the confidence, right? There were some people out there that were just, had this innate confidence in themselves. And I found that from my experience and from a lot of the people that I've talked to, that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times it's not this innate quality of self-confidence, motorcycle, that you have. It's more of an exposure thing, right? Because I was in that fight, and while I looked confident, and I was confident myself, not because I wasn't nervous, right? That's another thing. People think that confidence means you're going to be it's going to be an absence of nervousness and anxiety. That never goes away. You're always going to be nervous. You're always going to be anxious. Those things are always going to come up. Self-confidence is when you see the situation, it's something you want to do, and you just do it anyway, right? That's when you're confident in yourself, when you know that you can throw yourself into these unknown situations and things are going to just work out, right? But going back to the exposure thing, how in the hell did I go from a kid who couldn't even walk out in front of his house, who was overweight, out of shape, to being a professional, or at the time I was an amateur, but eventually a professional mixed martial artist, grappler, all that stuff? How did that happen, right? Well, it started off with little bitty things, right? It started off with me saying, okay, I'm going to go to the wrestling practice for the first time. And then it started with me going back the next day and the next day and the next day. And then it started off with me putting myself in the uncomfortable situation of doing a wrestling match, right? When coach was wanting to do that. Okay, did that. And then it was like, okay, cool. Well, now I'm going to go to states. That's an uncomfortable situation, and even more people. And then when I got out of high school, I put myself in the uncomfortable situation of going to a jiu-jitsu practice where I was really nervous about. And then eventually I had to go to a jiu-jitsu tournament, and then eventually a mixed martial arts training session where I was getting punched, and being punched was uncomfortable, and then eventually a mixed martial arts fight. And see, what you do when you do these little things and they incrementally build up, it's like a muscle, right? Just like you lift weights and you get bigger and stronger, just like when you roll in the gym, you roll with the toughest people to make yourself better. When you put yourself in uncomfortable situations and you come out all right on the other end, you develop this inner self-confidence. And again, it's not a confidence in the sense that you're not going to be See why I don't like motorcycles? They're so loud. They're obnoxious. But it's not an absence of nervousness or fear, right? You're going to have fear. You're going to have nervousness. But having self-confidence is saying, I got this. Like, put me there. I'll take care of it. And the way that you do that is by exposing yourself. Now, here's the little key to all this stuff. How do you get yourself to do those things, right? Because again, if you putting yourself in uncomfortable situations is difficult, right? How do you get yourself to do those things? You think about your why, right? One of the things that I always had when I was a young person, I always had it. Anything that I've ever accomplished that I'm proud of, always had a why behind it. Because I'm kind of one of those people, and I think most of us are, if I can't think of why I'm doing it, I don't really want to do it, right? But if I have a deep burning reason as to why, it doesn't matter. I'll grind away and get to it if I want it, right? And so you figure out what that why is. Like for you, you want to do jiu-jitsu. Why do you want to do jiu-jitsu? What is the reason, right? Why do you want to do it? Figure that out, right? Figure out, like, sit down. One of the things I would advise everyone to do, I do this, I journal every day. Journal. Sit down, open up a journal, and then write down, literally ask yourself a question. Say, why do I want to do jiu-jitsu? And just see what pops up. Write a page. Just write out a page about why you want to do jiu-jitsu. Right? And then whatever pops up, whatever sticks, whatever you can visualize and you can feel, right? Stick with that. And then when it comes time to go to the jiu-jitsu class, you think about, okay, why am I doing this? Because you're gonna have negative stuff. It's gonna pop up like, Selena, you're not good enough. Selena, you need to leave this. Selena, you're too soft. Selena, you're too this, that, whatever, negative crap comes up in your head. When you go to the practice, then you're gonna look back and say, okay, why am I doing this again? I remember, I'm doing this because of whatever your thing is, right? And this is what would happen with me with MMA fights. I remember being so nervous, like my first MMA fight, being so nervous, right? And my insides feel like they're just coming out of me, and I'm just like so nervous. I was so nervous leading up to my very first MMA fight that I was calling up my friends like, hey man, do you think I'm ready? Do you really think I'm good enough? And having to get reassurance from them. Now, the reason I went through with it was because I had a deep burning reason as to why I wanted to do it. I knew I was fighting. I had this little vision that I had in my head, and that's why I was doing it, right? And that's why I was able to go through these situations, and that's why I was able to continually expose myself to greater and greater stresses. That in order me to become confident, if we say. But again, confidence does not mean an absence of fear or anxiety, but you got to expose yourself. So for you, Selena, you're wanting to be more self-confident? Great. Do this. Find things that make you uncomfortable, not even jiu-jitsu related. Do jiu-jitsu, I would advise it, because again, I'm out here preaching to you about jiu-jitsu, right? Hope I don't come across as preachy, but that's the way it is. Just talking on a camera. But find other stuff that makes you uncomfortable, whatever that is, and just go out and do it. And then find a reason whenever you run into a resistance, why do you want to do those things? Why do I want to go to jiu-jitsu? Why do I want to go do this? Find the reason why. The why, if you have the why, you can find the how. And it's that why that fuels it, right? So, Selena, I hope this video is helpful to you. Good luck to your start in training. And again, aside from all that stuff that I put in there, just do it, right? Hundreds and thousands and millions of people around the world are doing it. I promise you it's going to be a good experience. Just step out on the mat one time. Just have your reason why. Step out there and train. See what it's like. Talk to you guys soon.